Rise, we'll honor America by saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Leary.
Mr. Leary.
Not here. He's not here.
Ms. Martin.
Here.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Conway.
Here.
Ms. Doherty.
Here.
Ms. Fattacante.
Here.
Mr. Leahy.
Here.
6 present, 1 absent.
Moving on with the agenda. On the agenda, it indicates we will have a special order of business, and the first order of business is a public hearing on inter-district choice, school choice programs. Anyone wishing to come to the podium and speak in favor of the inter-district choice, school choice program, please do so. Just give us your name and address. Those wishing to speak in favor, if you have the agenda, it's the first article on the agenda. Those wishing to speak in favor. In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to come to the podium to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? In opposition? The public hearing is closed. I believe, Madam Superintendent, the committee will take this up at a later point in time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, okay, thank you. At this point in time, it's my honor to recognize 33 retirees from the Lowell Public Schools. We just had a nice reception in the mayor's reception room, and many of the retirees could not make it, so I'm going to name them. And it was a wonderful evening down there with teachers who have dedicated 30, 35, some 38 years of their life to the children in our city. And I know for a fact that many of those teachers do more than just teach. They're a mentor, they're a big brother, a big sister, and sometimes a parent to those youngsters. They know who they are, and so don't I. So I want to thank them for their dedication and their compassion. Diane Alpern, Arlene Browning, Pamela Buchek, Marcia Byrne, Tim Shea, David Conway, Nancy DeRosius, Diane Giovanni, Constance Dinsmore, Judith Doschate, Cynthia Fine, Norma Fortin, Rita Fortin, Claire Fascia, Christine Georges, Kathleen Giannis, Joan Griffin, Darlene Hanlon, Linda Hassett, Donald Hayes, Harriet Healy, Nancy Humphrey, Denise Johnson, Patricia Jordan Duchamp, Sandra Jordan, Anna Kupines, Mary Levitt, Patricia Lyers, Linda McLaughlin, Mary Ann McQueen, June Miles, William Mitchell, Kathleen Mullen, Catherine Nevada, Dorothy Nelligan, Susan Pella, Dewey Perella, Rona Romalo, Heather Remain, I hope I got that one right, Gail Rhodes, Sandra Rappel, Catherine Rourke, Donna Ryan, Mary Sharkey, Cheryl Shepard, Tony Seidman, Oliver Centros, Mary Spence, Virginia Thomas, and Jacqueline Travis. Can everyone put their hands together for these dedicated clothes? Thank you very much. It is now a great pleasure that I present a citation to the Lowell High School mock trial team, and I would like to recognize the coaches, and I'll read the citation, and I would like to have the coaches come right in the railing, right by the table, and when I read your name. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby honors the Lowell High School mock trial team for outstanding achievements in high school academics and who defeated a 20-year history, becoming the 2008 regional champions, The entire city of Lowell congratulates and commends the team members, Coach Greg McDonough and attorney coaches Frank and Patty Talty, for their hard work and dedication, and wishes them all the best and continued success given this 21st day of May in the year 2008 by Mayor Caulfield and the entire Lowell School Committee and the residents of this city. And please put your hands together because these kids wouldn't have done it without us. Mock trial team, and these coaches would certainly discuss that, but here are the citations for these outstanding students, and I will give you a microphone.
Okay, unfortunately, not all of the mock trial members were able to make it here tonight. The students, they are studying, and that's one of the great things about the mock trial students is that they're involved in so many aspects of the school. Many of them do sports, extracurricular activities, and they also study. It's a true testament to their character that they came every Tuesday night from 6 to 8 after they were finished with all their other activities just to come and work with us. And so it's a great pleasure that I work with these students. And excuse me. So without further ado, I guess we'll announce the people. Let's see. So unfortunately, Chanceria Dam is not here tonight. Let's see. And Yano Hondros McCarthy is also not here tonight. Sarah Connaughton, unable to be with us. Victoria Gregory is not here yet either. Chelsea Linane is here. Anina Sin. Natalie Soto. Brittany Betancourt. Pooja Adasara is not here tonight. Raquel Villela is also not here tonight. Suti Kamsankau is also unable to be with us. Corey Boykins is not here. Matt Forrest is also not here. Oh, sorry. My mistake. Matt Wolf is not here tonight. Demetrius Boris. Alexandria Manousis is not here either. And I guess that's everyone. I'd like to thank the school committee for recognizing the mock trial team, and I'd also like to especially thank Mr. and Mrs. Talty. They are the heart and soul of the Lowell High School mock trial team. They started it here 20 years ago, and without them, there would be no program. Thank you. You guys would like to speak? I don't know. All right.
I just want to take 1 minute to thank Chuck Karagianis, who's a father of one of our stars who's gone on to bigger and better things. But Chuck volunteers with us every Tuesday night from 6 to 8 o'clock, and we couldn't do it without him either. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank our amazing coaches, and it was great working with all the other students, and I'm really proud to be part of history at Lowell High mock trial. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for the citations, and I'd also like to let you all know that along with me, there are people such as Anina Sin, who are doing the Lowell Mock Trial Nationals competition this summer. It's taking place here at UMass Lowell, and one of our coaches is Mrs. Talty, along with her husband, Mrs. Talty, and Mr. Greg McDonough, and that is in collaboration with Lowell Catholic, and we're gonna do good for you guys.
They come in first and beat one heck of a mock trial team, and we're proud of you, extremely proud of you. And you can let that be known to your fellow students, okay? Thank you. Thank you, coaches. All right, moving on with the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting and place them on file by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Leahy. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The minutes have been received and put on file. Permission to enter.
Yes, Mayor Caulfield. There are two contracts that I'm recommending this evening. The first is to Merrimack Education Center for $35,885 to amend the existing contract to provide for the out-of-district additional costs for 7 students currently enrolled and receiving services. Funding provided by the Special Education Department's current year, fiscal year 08 budget for special education tuition. And a second contract for Vermont Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, $13,725 to provide for the out-of-district tuition costs for 1 student enrolled and receiving services. And that funding from the same account but the fiscal year 09 budget.
Any discussion, debate on this request? Permission to enter. Move for approval by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Conway. Roll call.
Mr. Leahy, Mr. Leary, Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Doherty,
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante,
Yes.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
At this point in time, the chair would like to recognize Ms. Fattacante and Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Connie Martin, my colleague, Ms. Martin, and I had the privilege of putting in a memorial tonight for Agnes Burns Meehan, who passed away at 102 years old. She was a former teacher at the Moody Junior High School. And, Your Honor, if you would indulge me for one moment, Mrs. Meehan's history is so important that I think it deserves, that Ms. Martin and I think it deserves a little bit of recognition here tonight. She was a member of a family from Belvedere. She was born July 13th in 1905. She was a graduate of the Immaculate Conception Grammar School. She pursued her studies at Lowell Normal School, which is now UMass Lowell. She began her teaching career substituting at various schools in the Lowell Public Schools, and in 1928, she was assigned to the Riverside School. She taught 7th grade there until her marriage in 1936, at which point Agnes Burns Meehan was forced to resign from the system since the law prohibited married women from teaching. Of course, Your Honor, it was a statewide law, and it was considered inappropriate for married women to be in the classroom. And also, Your Honor, it was inappropriate for pregnant women to be in the classroom, and women who were married were forced to leave their teaching duties. But Mrs. Meehan went on to teach at the Immaculate Conception School. In the late 1950s, the Lowell School Committee abolished the discriminatory law that forbade married women from teaching and implemented a teacher qualification exam. In 1960, at the age of 55, Mrs. Meehan passed the exam and returned to the Lowell school system. And as I said to you earlier, Your Honor, no offense, but the committee at that time, I did have June Cormier, our recording secretary, our secretary, pull the list of the members of the Lowell School Committee. They were all men, and I think that they deserve a little bit of credit for their foresight. In 1956-57, the committee members were Mayor Pollard, Mr. Crowley, Mr. McDonough, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Picard, Mr. Droll, and Mr. Patnod. In 1958 and 59, the committee members again, Mayor Pollard, Mr. Danny Kane, Mr. Patnod, Mr. Crowley, Mr. Matty, Mr. Droll, and Mr. McDonough again. And again, Your Honor, some of these people still have family members in the community, and I thought that they deserved a little bit of recognition. They changed history. And the Lowell School Committee is not afraid of changing history. And we did when we abolished that very archaic law, which allowed several women like Mrs. Meehan to come back to the classroom, and then abolished the law in the 60s, which allowed pregnant women to remain in the classroom. Actually, that was the late 60s. So I just wanted to mention that, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Miss Martin?
Thank you very much. I'm certainly very happy to be able to co-sponsor this memorial with my colleague, Ms. Fatacanti. I'd just like to say that Mrs. Meehan was a remarkable woman, having grown up with her family next door, her son and his family next door. And I can tell you that she was, and as I had mentioned to the family at the wake, she was the most intimidating 5'0" woman I'd ever met. And I suspect that all 6 of those members of those 2 school committees did not see her coming, but they certainly felt the force when she arrived. She was, I think, in Lowell, a true iconoclast. She was just a remarkable woman with a great spirit, and who I know, in speaking with her family, relished the time she spent teaching in the Lowell public school system. And our system was better, stronger, and more effective because of the time she spent with us. So she is remembered by many I know since her passing, and I'm very happy to be part of this effort by this committee to remember her in one more way. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may, I'd just like to say a few words. Agnes Meehan raised the bar on education. She went back at the age of 55 and continued to work and educate till she was 70. And I would imagine nobody gave her a problem during those teaching years. And rightfully so. It was only right for the school committee at that point in time to abolish that foolish law, and we're all happy that they did. But at a point in time in the agenda, I'm going to ask for suspension of the rules and ask the subcommittee on naming buildings and so forth to appropriately name something after this great woman.
Your Honor, I'll
And-
make a motion to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend the rules by Ms. Fatacanti, seconded by Ms. Martin. I neglected to call in the motion, but it's here before me, and I would like to see the school department, the school committee, name something after this great woman. And by doing so, you're only going to give incentives to other women and other teachers to carry that dedication on even further. And Agnes, I would say she was the epitome. She emulated what education is truly all about. And I imagined a lot of her students can go back and have fond memories about Agnes Burns. So that's the motion. I certainly hope that it's passed unanimously. For a great woman, I told Joe Meehan and his family we were going to do this, and he was speechless. So it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. So if we take a roll call on that motion,
I need a second on
Seconded by Ms. Martin.
the second by Ms. Martin.
Mr. Leary is absent. Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Ms. Fatacanti?
Yes?
Mr. Leahy?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Okay, let us finish with the memorials. Memorials by Regina Infantacandi and Connie Martin. A moment of silence in darkened chambers for Agnes Meehan, passed away at 102 years of age. She was a former teacher at the Maury Junior High School. Also for Olympia Zagonis, mother-in-law of Suzanne Zagonis, a teacher at the Pawtuckaville Memorial Elementary School. Let us rise in darkened chambers for a moment of silence for these two great people. May they rest in peace. Unfinished business. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, on Saturday, the committee unanimously approved its budget its budget request for fiscal year '09 at $137,161,454, which is at the amount of money that the city manager at this point has been able to commit to the school department for next year. That consists of the current year's appropriation plus the full amount of the Chapter 70 funding from the funding increase that's coming from the State House, which is just under $1 million, plus $200,000, which he is recommending, he's planning to appropriate from the city's cable contract. When the committee took that vote, the committee also directed me to bring forward at this meeting a recommendation for what 10 positions I would recommend be restored or added to that bare bones budget. And so you have in front of you this evening my recommendation. And I believe it was the committee's intention if additional funding can be made available by the city manager and city council, then these would be the items, these would be the positions that would be restored by whatever vote the committee takes tonight. And so you asked me to bring recommendations. So you have recommendations for 10 positions. They are all teaching positions. They all would offer direct service to students. And I've divided them into 3 orders of priority. So the first order are 2 positions. The first one, a teacher of English as a second language who would be assigned to the Malloy Alternative School. Right now, the Malloy Alternative School cannot accept students who require, as part of their program, English as a second language instruction. So this would enable us to expand enrollment at the Malloy Alternative School and meet the needs of a group of youngsters whose needs we cannot currently meet there. The second is a full-time English language arts and ESL teacher that would be split between our 2 K-8 schools, the Bartlett School and the Pine Arts School. Both of these schools at their middle school level, in the cuts they had to take in order to get the budget to guideline, are really short shrift in the reading intervention programs that we have established at the middle school level. And these schools are really hurt by those cuts and will have a very difficult time without this addition fully meeting all of the contractual requirements for preparation time for teachers as well as common planning time, and they will have to reduce their reading intervention efforts for at the middle school level. So this restoration would aid in that. So those are the highest priority 2 positions that I've identified. The next 3 I've grouped together, and they are the 3 middle school cuts that do the most damage. And they are the mathematics art position at the Rogers, the mathematics intervention teaching position at the Wang, and the instructional technology specialist teaching position at the Stocklosha. All 3 of these programs support the math program at the middle school level, and 2 of them, the position at the Rogers and the position at the Wang, also are key to the allied arts cycle that the students go through. So that's the second set of priorities. And then the remaining 5 positions I've identified here are elementary reading and or English as a second language positions at 5 of our elementary schools, the Lincoln, the Morey, the Merkland, the Pawtucketville, and the Shaughnessy. The Lincoln, because it has a large English as a second language population, English language learner population, and the staffing has not kept up with that. And so as they've had to cut back on Title I funded positions, that's a really unmet need at the school. In the case of the Morey, the Merkland, the Pawtucketville, and the Shaughnessy, they are among the elementary schools that have lost reading positions in recent years, and they are all Commonwealth priority schools where English language arts reading is a significant issue at all 5 schools. If I had 5 more positions, I'd add 5 more reading positions at the elementary level, but the list is 10, and so I identified the highest priority 5 elementary schools in terms of number of youngsters needing additional support for reading. So I'd welcome committee questions or comments.
Mr. Conway?
I'd like to commend the superintendent for that list, because that's something that we talked about Friday night and Saturday, and I, for one, and I'm sure my colleagues agree with me on this, that the teacher positions are paramount. They're most important because they affect the education. They're the ones that have that direct education on the children, and everyone else in the system is a support for that teacher. So I commend you on that list. I think that's extremely important, and I certainly hope that we do have, or we can find, monies that can fill those positions and perhaps even more. Thank you.
Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. As Mr. Conway said, you know, all of us sitting here realize how important these positions are. And Your Honor, if you look at these 10 positions, I mean, it's absolutely absurd that we have to cut these positions from our school district. Reading teachers, math teachers, I mean, now we're getting into the core subjects.
Why are you directing your questions to me?
Well, just because you're up there. I know you feel the same way. I don't know who to talk to up there, so. But, and I know you understand this, but, you know, I've said it before. I know that down at the State House, they're working hard, but I can't call up the electric company and tell them I can't pay my bill. They'll shut me off. You can't call the gas company and tell them you're not paying your bill. They'll shut you off. We should be able to call the State House and say, you need to keep up with education.
John, the state is
I know that,
$1.5 billion.
I know that, but they're the ones that took on the task of funding education.
There's no money in the state.
I understand
Get
that, Your
that,
Honor, but
please
what I'm
get
saying
that.
is they took on the task, and I'm just saying that it's awful that we don't have enough money for public education. And, you know, maybe they need to sit down and have some sort of a conference with all the mayors, the city managers, superintendents, but we've got to find a better way to fund public education. I mean, this is awful. Now, I mean, before we trimmed down, we trimmed. Now we're really cutting out core teachers here, reading and arithmetic, and it's awful. And there's no excuse. We shouldn't have to go to any school and tell them that you can't have a reading teacher this year. It's disgusting. And I know all of us here in this chamber, we're fighting as hard as we can for education, but these are the core cuts right now that are hurting education. And, you know, we need to turn around and do something as a community and as a state. You know, I don't know how many times you can say it. It's just awful that we have to have these
In
cuts.
some communities, they're closing the schools.
I know. Yeah, and we've closed schools, but you know, something needs to be done. So, thank you.
Ms. Martin? Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I mean, I'd just like to say, you know, again, I know we all appreciate the superintendent's work and effort in pulling together this list, and I do think that it's very telling to see exactly what's on it, that these fundamental, critically important foundation positions are what we're begging for at this point. I think we all, I recognize that we're not alone in this. I recognize that this is a problem, not even simply across the Commonwealth, but across our nation, that whether we're talking unfunded mandates from the federal government or a host of other overwhelming draws on our resources, place so many school districts in this really unenviable position of having to look at priorities in which there are no good answers. I think that the exercise that we asked the superintendent to do was one that we're all hoping will help us, if nothing else, be able to point towards specific holes in what we're able to offer. We are hopeful that we might be able to bring back some of these positions. I don't think anyone is counting on it. I think we all recognize the situation we're in. But I do think that for us to at least have in mind, again, as I had said before, specifics so that we can point to them and say, investments in our school district go for very specific and critically important things. Every one of those strictly teaching positions, of those 10 that we have on our hopeful list, are just that. They're teaching positions, front of classroom, dealing one-on-one with children. So I think that, again, we hope that should there be any opportunity that they would be considered. But I do think that with all reasonableness, we recognize that the challenge that faces us as school committee members is the same challenge that faces our colleagues on the city council, at the State House, and in Congress. So we're not alone in this, but I think it's helpful for us to be able to have this kind of document to, at the very least, remind us all of exactly how deep the cuts really are. Thank you.
Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd just like to add one piece of this. As someone who was very excited with our MCAS scores that came out over the last year and really seeing significant gains, especially in our middle school math program, and to see here that, we're going to be really doing some damage to our ability to continue to make progress in that area. And we're going to see that in the scores that come out next year. When we look at the accountability that we're expected to deliver student performance, if we don't have the resources to do that, that's going to come out. And I think that's a real loss for our children and for our community. And the second part of that speaks to the elementary reading specialists. We have, out of those 6 schools, as the superintendent mentioned, there's 5 schools. 4 of them are Commonwealth priority schools. 4 of them have already been identified by the state as not making the kind of progress that we're expected to make. As my colleague mentioned, these unfunded mandates that come down from the federal government, who has been consistently cutting our Title I money. Those schools, they have that challenge of being a Commonwealth priority school, and now they also don't have those reading specialists, those reading teachers in the classrooms, helping children, especially our English language learners, who have that extra obstacle to, overcome. And I think that this is the part that's frustrating. This is one of the parts that's frustrating. That, we're going to get judged again next year when the results come out, and there's going to be this big uproar that we're not making progress, but we don't have the tools to do it because we made great gains and we're cutting back on those resources. And I think that's one frustration I just needed to share. Thank you.
Anyone else like to discuss? I just say that those 10 positions of $550,000, the city manager has already given the school department $200,000, and you're $41,000 over the budget with the clerk for the LTC program. So, am I right or wrong?
We
No,
took it from another source, Your Honor.
I think the budget that was voted on, the budget that was voted on Saturday is a balanced budget.
Okay, then I apologize. I just want to say, sometimes we all take things for granted. The new Stockloza School, matter of fact, all the new schools we have in the city. And there isn't a day that goes by that I don't thank the Lowell delegation for their tireless work. We have built $270 million worth of new schools in the city. No other city east of the Mississippi River can say that. And that's because of the state of Massachusetts. And that's because they had money to fund all those programs. Not only the schools, but the parks, the playgrounds, the library, and everything you see in the city. The state has come forward and funded those programs. And Senator Panagiotakis, Representative Murphy, Gold, and Nagel are right there in the forefront. And when I speak to that Lowell delegation, and they said the state is nearly in bankruptcy. You can't pick up the phone and call Governor Patrick or the chairman of Ways and Means. We need more money, because everyone's doing that. It's a dilemma that the entire state is in. I think Regina Faticani issued that the whole nation is in. So the underlying statement here, if additional funding is made available by the city manager and the city council, the only thing we can do is bring this forward and see what we can do. But, you know, on the city side of the government, we're, I think, $2.2 million in the red for snow and ice. You know how the snowstorms we had this winter? We don't have the money either. And we're just going to have to rub nickels together and come up with a solution to try to make everyone happy. So, Madam Superintendent?
I wonder if I could suggest that the committee vote to adopt this recommendation as the positions to be added if the city manager and city council are able to make additional funds available. I know the city manager, as he's developing the city, the budget, he's looking to see if there are possibly some additional funds that could be provided for the school department, and this way I could send him this list and then he would know what would be added.
Could I suggest something? Instead of saying if the funding is there for all these requests, saying if the funding or partial funding is there. I think that's being fair. If there's a partial funding, and that's something I could support and work with. But you have to realize that we don't have a dollar bill tree out in the courtyard. It doesn't exist. And I've been looking for one for years. But, all right, Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd just like to say one more thing. With all due respect, I know that the city council is struggling, and I don't envy the position that you're in of trying to fund all these needs. But I would like to remind Your Honor that we did get the Chapter 70 money last year from the state. We got $1.6 million, and $800,000 of that money remained with the city. So this $550,000 with the additional $200,000 would just get us to that $800,000 this year if the city could find some way to fund the whole amount. If not, we'll take whatever the city can come up with. But in due respect, we did get that Chapter 70 money last year, was earmarked $1.6 million for the schools, and we only got half of that.
Yeah. And I said last Saturday, I don't want to lead you down some golden path or pie in the sky. It's, you know, I have 8 colleagues on the council. They're going to weigh in on this as well. And some of them have children going into Lowell Public Schools. I have a grandson going to Lowell Public Schools, and he just loves the school system. But if we present the motion, funding or partial funding for this request, is that fair enough?
I would make...
Do we need to suspend the rules, Your Honor, to bring in a motion? Motion to suspend the rules to bring in a motion, Your Honor?
Okay. Motion to suspend the rules by Ms. Faticani, second by Ms. Martin. All in favor of the suspension, signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? The suspensions are in order. Present your motion.
My motion would be that we present the city manager with the priority positions listed here, that they be budgeted partially or fully.
Funding or partial funding? How's that?
Funding or partial funding.
You don't want to leave out funding. Funding or partial funding of this request?
If the city council is
Okay.
able to.
Roll call.
And we need a
Second.
second.
Seconded by Ms. Faticani. Roll call.
Mr. Leary. Ms. Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Mr. Conway.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Faticante.
Yes?
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
See, we're not all that bad, right?
Absolutely not, Your Honor.
Motions.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, public participation, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to allow public participation for the purpose of a special invitation to the school committee.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Faticani. All in favor of the suspension? signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The suspensions are in order. Mr. Regan, the podium is yours.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Superintendent, school committee members, and other guests in the room. I wanted to extend an invitation to the school committee, the mayor and the superintendent, for next Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. at the Middlesex Community College Federal Building for the Lowell Latin Lyceum Arete Awards ceremony. We've moved this time back an hour because I think you've got a previous commitment at 7 o'clock. It's probably going to be a busy night, but if any of you folks could make this, we're honoring 11 recipients of the Arete Award. And these are students that have gone through 4 years in the Latin Academy at the high school that have met the Scholaris, Humanitas, and Athletics requirements. Athletics is they must participate both semesters in sports. Humanitas is they must work charity events every semester that they're in high school. And the Scholaris is they must meet a minimum requirement of scholastic aptitude. So there are 11 people receiving the Scholaris, Humanitas, and Athletics awards, 5 people that will be receiving the Scholaris and Humanitas awards, and 2 people receiving the Scholaris and Athletics awards. And some of the folks on this list, you probably know some of the names. Stephanie Bates is going to head off to NYU, the Tisch School. Alexandra, Alex Hayden, her mom is here this evening. Victoria off to Wellesley College. Yenna Hundress McCarthy and Michael Trapani are heading to Lowell. Justine Murray is going to Babson College. Christina Tobin is heading to Bates. Victoria Troll to Emmanuel. Dick Howe, the third, is off to Harvard. And we have 2 students heading to MIT, Peter Tia and Shika Kaji. So a good group of kids. And if you folks could find time to participate with us next Wednesday evening, 6 o'clock reception, about 30 minutes, and then we'll have probably a 30-minute ceremony to hand out these awards. We'd love to have you folks there. But good kids have worked hard, and we hope that these children go off to college for 4 or 6 or 8 years and find their way back to Lowell to, do some of the unfinished business that needs to be done here. Thank you for your time. I'll leave, if I can, I'll leave copies of the invitation that went to the parents. I think there's enough for everyone. And I thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on the public participation? Under the motions, motion by David Conway to request the superintendent to create a council for creative solutions whose members include, but not be limited to, representatives from local businesses, healthcare organizations, community services, legal firms, the school department, and our local institutions of higher learning, UMass Lowell, Middlesex Community College. The purpose of the council will be to determine the feasibility and efficiency of cost-saving ideas submitted to them by school department employees. Anyone employed by the school department, teachers, custodians, cafeteria workers, security, clerks, paraprofessionals, and administrators who had an idea that would save money and make the school system more effective in delivering services could submit their idea. The council would have the responsibility to review all ideas put before them, ensuring that no idea will be ignored. After thoughtful discussion, the council would select the proposals that reflected cost savings to the schools while maintaining quality education programming. These proposals would then be forwarded to the school committee for their consideration. For every proposal that the school committee accepts, the employee who submitted the idea would receive a bonus. The funding for the bonus would come from a small suspense account set aside solely for the purpose of this program. Motion seconded by Ms. Dougherty. Mr. Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I first of all want to apologize to you, Mr. Mayor, and my colleagues for such a lengthy motion.
That wasn't a motion, that was a book.
Well,
Yeah, it's
This
War,
was-
and, War and Peace by David Conway.
this was the abbreviated one. The first one was a lot longer. By taking a look at this motion, I wanted to make sure that I tried to make it as clear as possible. And even at that, it's I would certainly consider it as a very complicated motion. And it's a motion that I'm very excited about. I think that, as we have pointed out in the last few days, last few weeks actually, that we are certainly running into some financial problems, not just with the municipalities in the state, not just with the state itself, but also in the country. And it certainly is being felt in the school departments, as my colleagues have mentioned here tonight. And I think that one of the major problems we have is obviously the shortage of money. And we cannot continually go back to the taxpayer. There is certainly an outcry on all levels of government that the taxes are high. People do not have the money for the increases. So we are certainly in a dilemma. And I think it's incumbent on us to come up with ideas and solutions that can perhaps alleviate the problems that are in front of us. And again, I'm not saying that this is the magic bullet, that this is going to solve all the problems. But I think that we certainly need to be more creative in how we do business. And I think that if we take a look at the workforce that we have over 2,000 employees in the city of Lowell. These people have diverse backgrounds. They have strengths that we should be tapping into. And I think it's extremely important that we get their ideas. And that's why I say that if we create a council from representations from the entire city of all different levels, and they field these ideas coming from our employees, I think that we could perhaps save some money, because I think that many times we find that employees in the school department, and myself just retiring this year and after 37 years, I find that most individuals are hesitant to come forward with an idea for a whole variety of reasons, whether it's going to be heard or whether they're going to be ridiculed or whether it's actually going to work or not. And consequently, we have a lot of people that are not coming forward. There are many people out there with great ideas. I think it's important that we do tap into these resources. And that's why I think it's extremely important that, again, we do business perhaps a little bit different. This is not a novel idea. This is done in the business world every single day. And I think that we obviously see successful companies that go back to their employees and ask them for ideas, cost-saving ideas. And I think that, again, with over 2,000 employees, I think it would be a great opportunity for us to ask for their ideas. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Dougherty?
If I could just add to that, I think this is an excellent motion. You mentioned earlier tonight at the retirees reception, you worked at Raytheon. I wonder if you remember or had heard of a program called the Raytheon Employees Suggestion Plan.
I certainly do.
I was very involved when I also worked at Raytheon for...
Matter of fact, I put in ideas and received
So, I mean,
compensation.
as my colleague mentioned, this happens in business all the time. It's smart business. It's thinking about how to be more efficient, effective, how to save money. So I think it's a great idea to bring it into the schools. And if you remember anything about the Raytheon Employee Suggestion Plan program, they had a form, actually, that we could have easily available at the schools, and then you'd have a place that employees could send their ideas, like, you know, with the task force and all this. At Raytheon, they had a committee separate, but I'm not going to go into that. Just to say that I applaud my colleague for his foresight of thinking about this. I think that as we look at some businesses as a model, Raytheon is one, Toyota's another business that really looks to their employees for suggestions and ideas about doing the job better. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I applaud him for that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Fattacani?
Thank you, Ron. I also support this motion, but it is, no offense to my colleague, a little complicated. I'm wondering if we can send this to one of our subcommittees so that we can dissect the motion and develop a plan of how the suggestions would come forward, how they would be selected, So maybe, since it's Mr. Conway's motion, maybe we send it to the Subcommittee on Partnerships for the subcommittee to dissect it and come back to the full school committee with a report on how this would actually play out.
That can,
Okay.
Ms. Martin?
If I could, I think that that's a great idea. My only recommendation might be if we might want to include the finance subcommittee, just have it maybe as a joint.
Joint, that's perfect, joint
so they
subcommittee,
can-
sure.
Both aspects can be included.
Mr. Leahy, any discussion? No? Okay.
Just, it's a great motion. I'm glad Dave thought of it. He's got a lot of time on his hands now as
Yeah.
we honored him as a
He
retiree
told me you
tonight.
mentioned to him going up
Yeah.
the other day.
So it's a great motion, and thank you.
Let me tell you the difference between Raytheon and the Lowell School Department. Raytheon is in the private sector. They can do what they want with their money. We're in the public sector. So I will also advise you to send this to the law department to check the legality of this issue. I don't know I mean, if somebody comes in with a great idea, a dinner for two at a nice restaurant downtown, a $50 wall bond, or whatever, we have to check out with the law department to make sure that's legal. And I just want to let you know, Dave, that we have to do that. So, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. We're going to take a roll call. As long as we send this to the law department, and we will send it to the various subcommittees as well, but I think the law department has to take a look at it, okay?
So Ms. Fattacante ended the motion to send.
Subcommittees of Finance and Partnerships review this motion and also have it be sent to the law department.
And who seconded that?
Seconded by Ms. Martin. Why
Okay.
don't we take a roll call on that so we'll
Okay, on the amended
In the ballpark.
motion, Mr. Leary, Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Doherty,
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes?
Mr. Leahy,
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent.
I just-
Amended, motion as amended, approved.
I don't think the motion was amended. I think Mr. Conway presented his motion, and then Ms. Fattacani and Ms. Doherty, I don't know who seconded the motion, suggested that we send it to the various.
Yeah, so that's amending the motion. If you send it, yeah, that's amending the, that's,
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, moving on with the agenda, Mayor Caulfield has a motion. And it's actually from Council Elliott, and he presented this motion, requests the city manager and the mayor request the school department to apply for available grants to retrofit school buses relative to releasing diesel exhaust. Now, I brought that forward at the council meeting indicating that it's a private concern that does our transportation. Is that so, Madam Superintendent?
Yes, and I left some information on the committee's table this evening. This might be a world record for responding to a motion. It was taken care of before tonight.
It was.
Yes, so you actually have information.
See how fast we were?
That's it. Our transportation coordinator, John Dakota, heard about this motion from the city council and was on it immediately. And he is very pleased to announce that Lowell will be in the very first group of contractors and communities to have all of our diesel-powered school buses retrofitted at no expense to either our vendor, North Reading Transport, or us. The work is to begin this summer, and it's to be completed by December of 2008. So Lowell will be in the very first group of communities that will take advantage of this new state grant program.
Madam Superintendent, when was this implemented? What the date? You know the name? John Dakota brought this forward?
John Dakota notified me yesterday, May 20th.
May 20th. How long has he been working on this? That's what
I believe as soon as he heard that the city council was considering this, he
Okay.
started making phone calls.
Excellent. That's fast. Huh? So, there's no motion. It's done. It's in the works.
so you
There's no
withdraw.
second, there's
So
no
you-
first,
So you're
there's-
going to withdraw your motion. You're going to withdraw it.
Right.
because
Yeah.
it would be good for us to then have a recap from Mr. Dakota when everything does get retrofitted. So I'm going to second Mayor Caulfield's motion.
And why don't we place this motion on file, so we'll have it,
Absolutely.
Okay. Place the motion on file by Ms. Fattacani and seconded by Ms. Dougherty. And all in favor of what you just presented?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Okay?
Yep, yes, that's legal, what you just did, okay.
Okay, subcommittees on report and approval of minutes of the meeting of May 12, 2008. James Leary, the chairman, Finance Subcommittee. Move.
Your Honor, I think we already went over the minutes at Friday's meeting. Mr. Leary spoke on the minutes then, so this is just the written record. So we just need to...
So we don't have the...
Move approval.
Move approval, Ms. Fattacani, seconded by Ms. Martin. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Aye. Reports of the superintendent, McDonough Freshman Academy at Lowell High School.
Yes, the staff at the Clement McDonough Freshman Academy at the high school has, as I think the committee knows, set very ambitious goals for improvement of student attendance and course passing rates. And I've included the report from the third quarter at the high school so that you can see the progress that they are making. They are well on their way to far exceeding their already ambitious course passing rate goal. And they're looks like they're going to, with a little bit of luck, fourth quarter that we're in the middle of, they're going to meet and possibly exceed their average daily attendance goal as well. So I thought the committee would want to know that that the work underway at the Freshman Academy is bearing fruit.
Any discussion on the report? Accept the report as a report of progress of Mr. Leahy, seconded by Mr. Conway. All in favor, signify by saying aye. The report has been accepted and placed on file. The 8th Annual Rotary Club Celebration of Teaching.
Yes, on May 6th, Lowell's Rotary Club once again sponsored the annual celebration of teaching dinner. Committee member Martin and committee member Dougherty were able to be there. 37 teachers were nominated for recognition, and they have a combined 877 years of teaching experience. And Mayor Caulfield, some of the teachers that were honored as retirees were also nominated for this award.
Yes.
The award winners this year were Mary Beth Levitt from the Bailey, Chris Georges from the Daily, and Donald Hayes from the high school social studies department. In the 8 years since the launch of the Celebration of Teaching event, more than 200 teachers have been recognized, and $75,000 has been raised for scholarships for Lowell High School graduating seniors.
Any discussion on the report? Accept the report as a report of progress by Ms. Dougherty, seconded by Ms. Fattacani. All in favor of accepting the report and placing it on file, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Report has been accepted and placed on file. New business. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, under new business, there are two items. The first one has to do with the school choice participation vote. Every year, under state law, the school committee is asked to decide whether or not to adopt participation in the statewide school choice program. The school committee has regularly voted not to participate, and I'm not recommending a change from that stance this year.
Ms. Fattacani?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would recommend that we vote to not accept the school choice program. To not accept that would mean we would vote yay to not accept the school choice program.
Nay.
Well,
Vote
nay.
no.
Let me
Not to
rephrase the
accept?
motion.
Okay.
I don't know how to rephrase it. Yes, to accept the superintendent's recommendation. I'm making a thank you,
Okay.
John. I'm making a motion to
There
accept
you
the
go.
superintendent's recommendation.
Motion by Ms. Fattacani, seconded by Ms. Dougherty to accept the recommendation by Madam Superintendent Carla Brooks-Bear not to accept the school choice participation vote. Roll call.
Mr. Leary, Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Ms. Dougherty,
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes?
Mr. Leahy,
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Permission to post.
Yeah, yes, you have a recommendation from me to post the position of teaching principal assigned to the Moody Elementary School for next year, which would be a part of our administrative apprentice program. So it would be a full year, 1 year, full time appointment of an administrative apprentice to serve as the teaching principal at the Moody School. The person would work under the supervision. The supervising principal would be Linda Lee from the nearby Shaughnessy Elementary School, who would serve as supervising principal and mentor. This would create an opportunity for a member of our staff who is interested in exploring being a school level administrator to have the opportunity under the watchful eye of Miss Lee to learn the craft and test their wings. The Moody School is a school with the staff is a seasoned staff, high quality education offered there. They would be, I think, a very good fit for an apprentice. It's an opportunity. We've done this once before at the Cardinal O'Connell School. We had for 1 year a teaching principal assigned there. In that case, it was the apprentice was Jason DiCarlo, who went on to become assistant principal at the McAuliffe School, and then currently, as you know, is in his first year of being principal at the McAuliffe School. So certainly, in that case, it worked very well, and I would anticipate there'll be a rigorous selection process, and it would work well this year. It has the advantage of creating an opportunity for one of aspiring administrator within the staff to have that experience. I think it's a good opportunity to do that at the Moody School, and it leaves open all the options for a year from now of appointing a full-time principal to the Moody or whatever will be the future of the Moody School. So I would, it will, although this is not the reason to do it, but it will generate some savings in the personnel budget, depending on who is selected. But we know that there'll be some savings.
Motion to adopt the recommendation by the superintendent by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Doherty. Roll call.
Mr. Leary, Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Mr. Conway. He's absent. Okay, he's absent. Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes?
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 absent, approved.
We have nothing on the convention and conference requests. Yes, Ms. Martin.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask for a suspension of the rules to bring in a motion?
Sure.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rules by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Fattacante. All in favor of the suspension, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The suspension's of an order. Here you go.
Thank you very much. I would just like to make a motion. I've had an opportunity to talk with my colleagues as well as with Anita Downs, who is the chairperson of the Citywide Parent Council. I would like to bring forth a motion that the school committee, certainly including you, Mr. Mayor, and the Citywide Parent Council would like to co-sponsor a special reception for outgoing Superintendent Dr. Carla Brooks Bear, to give us an opportunity to say thank you and best wishes, and more importantly, I think, to give our community an opportunity to do the same. Many of the goodbye activities that are going on are not necessarily at times that are available to some of our teachers, our administrators, and some of the other community partners with whom our superintendent has worked so closely. And I think all of us on the committee would like an opportunity to work with the Citywide Parent Council to host an event to give really the full community an opportunity to do that. I would recommend and would welcome input from my colleagues. June 18th will be the superintendent's final meeting. It's a Wednesday evening, and what I would recommend would be if we could do it that evening, June 18th, at 5:30 in the evening, prior to our meeting, in the mayor's reception room, if the mayor can let us know if it's
Yes.
available.
Yep.
So I would make that, that's almost as long as Mr. Conway's motion, but I didn't write it down beforehand. So, but that would be my motion.
Motion by Ms. Martin. Do I hear a second? Second on the motion?
I'll second.
Motion, seconded by Ms. Fattacante. I think it's a good motion. It's not a case, should we? We have to do that. And it's the city in putting our best foot forward and wishing the superintendent the best in her career. One more, take a roll call on that vote, that motion, please.
Mr. Larry, Miss Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield.
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Miss Doherty,
Yes.
Miss Fattacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd just like to say my deepest apologies. I will not be able to attend that meeting. I have a prior family commitment out of the country, so even though I really wish I could be there.
You're flying out of the country?
I'll be out of the country, yeah. So I'm not
I
going to be
guess that's
able
a
to
good
attend.
reason.
I will be there in spirit, but I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to have Sue Mulligan in charge of food with Ann Murphy.
She does a good job.
Anything under convention and conference requests, anything pertaining to that? Communications. Roger School participation in the Greater Lowell Environmental and Educational Alliance 5th Earth Fest event. Do I have,
Do we have some kind of, oh, there we go.
Madam Superintendent?
No, I just, there was a communication of appreciation to the Rogers School students for their good work in the Greater Lowell Environmental Education Alliance Earth Fest.
Okay. And you know, let me say something about the Lowell School students. The city council right now is going through a dilemma with trash and litter and recycling. And the students in the schools, they probably have a better idea. You know, I know Ford come up with that, but I think some of the students might have a better idea. And they're the ones, my grandson keeps telling me, you know, you gotta recycle, so. But, accept the communication placed on file by Ms.
approval, Your Honor.
Fattacante, second by Ms. Martin. Anything else to just, Mr. Leahy?
If I could take a point of personal privilege to just bring up a subject here. We need a thing, no. Okay. I just had a question. There was an article in the paper yesterday about UMass Lowell disputes the price it pays for the Songus Arena. And
You
I
don't wanna
didn't,
get into that, do you?
well, I didn't know if we're overpaying, because it says in the article that they pay about $12,000 for a 2-day graduation.
Yeah.
And the city of Lowell pays about $10,000 for 3 hours. So I didn't know if we should be asking about this or trying to find out.
John, about 45 minutes ago, you were looking for money from the city. How does that,
Well, I'm wondering if we're overpaying at the arena too, the city of Lowell. Because we pay about 10 through the city, right? Is that, well, that's why I'm asking you, Mr. Mayor. I
Well,
didn't know if you knew anything about this. or not.
whatever the Lowell School Department is charged, so is in all the other suburban schools. It's a blanket policy. And, you know, how many people do we have come into the Songus Arena for the Lowell High School graduations?
Right. Well, what I was asking is, I didn't know if, they're disputing a $12,000 bill. I didn't know if we were overpaying for a few hours.
They're looking for $63,000 back that they, you know, that they think they were overcharged, so. No,
Yeah, they're saying that they should only be paying about $3,000, right, per event, so.
that's for hockey.
And graduation.
No. John, but in order to set up graduation for UMass Lowell, it's a huge
Okay.
event.
All right, I just thought, looking at the
If
article.
you want to put
I
that
thought
in the
we should
form
look
of a
into it.
motion, put it in the form of a motion for the next meeting, and I'll personally carry that back to the city council. How's that?
Okay, all right, sounds good.
Okay. Anything else to discuss? If not, yes, Ms.
I
Dodd.
thought there was an email about a grant proposal. Do we need to there's no action? Okay, thank you. I just make a motion to adjourn then.
Thank you for a great meeting.
Who seconded it, Ms. Fattacante? I heard someone say
Jim.
second, but I didn't.
Jim
okay.
Leary.